What is going on, everybody? Welcome to your opening drive Duck Tears edition of the Coach and the Couch Potato, brought to you by the Barn Baseball and Softball Academy, Cornerstone Home Remodeling. As always, I am Jeremy the Couch Potato, who may or may not have walked for more yards walking to the refrigerator in the restroom than the Oregon Ducks rushed for in the Rose Bowl. Opposite side of the screen, we got Coach Slate. What is going on, sir?
Oh, not much, man. Back to school tomorrow. Break is over. So my kids are not happy. They are very frustrated that they have to go back to school. But it's good, man. We had our first football meeting tonight. With the kids. It was a Zoom meeting, man. We had like over 90 kids hop on the Zoom. So it's just
Wow.
like, yeah, man. It's just phenomenal kids, man. So, gearing up for the 2025 season, man. Can't believe we're already talking about it. But, here we are, man. How you doing?
We are hanging in there. We are hanging in there. Hey, real quick, we got a portal boom 20 minutes ago.
Oh, really?
Yeah, linebacker from Duquesne who was all conference and is the older brother of Bo Jackson.
Well, there you go.
So, yeah, just, some randomness in the world that is Buckeye football. This
There
time
we
of
go.
year, this 12-team playoffs kind of uncharted territory. We're used to this being about recruiting and the portal, and we're still playing games.
Yeah.
And that's because Will Howard busted out his 12 gauge. Chip Kelly had an AK-47, and Ryan Day was driving the tank.
Yeah.
The Buckeyes came out and left no doubt. I don't think
Yeah.
there's any other way to describe it.
Yeah. There's really not, man. It was from the first play, just the play design, getting the scheming up a play for G Scott, right? Like that's one of the things that, lets me know that Chip Kelly is really like deep into his bag of trying to get creative when you're scheming plays for a tight end who's got 200 yards receiving on the year. And I couldn't be, happier for a kid that he gets that first play of the game and really sets the tone. And so from the first play, man, it was just fun. And the one thing that really stands out to me, man, and I know we'll dive into it even more, but the defense, like just the violence that they're playing with. I know they gave up 21 points. I understand that. They really changed their philosophy a little bit in the second half. Really just playing a little bend but don't break. Find ways to disrupt Dylan Gabriel without bringing a ton of pressure. But, if you score, you score. We've got a 3-score lead. And so, but the violence that they play with, man, the film was fun to watch. I'll just say that, man. It was very enjoyable to see.
Yeah, those dudes were laying some lumber.
Yeah.
I think for the second game in a row, I think we saw a running back make a business decision. I think Jordan James probably said, I don't like the way these guys are hitting. I want to go home.
Yeah.
And you could see it in Dylan Gabriel's eyes. That kid looked like he saw a deer in the headlights. I mean,
Yeah.
I cracked a joke to a couple of people we know because did you see the interview with Dylan Gabriel the day before the game or 2 days before the game?
Yeah. He was high as a kite.
Yeah, he looked like he needed to go hit about 3 joints because
Yeah.
he was hurting.
Yeah.
I mean, those boys brought the lumber. You saw Ransom just slack their running back. Dylan
Yeah.
Gabriel was getting ate alive. And, obviously you've watched the film, so you can probably tell me if I'm wrong, but I don't feel like we blitzed a lot.
We did not. There were maybe 3 called blitzes that I can think of that weren't like delay blitzes. The one that was the only one that we had that was successful was the one with Lathan Ransom, where he actually made the running back miss, blitzed past Dylan Gabriel, then came back and got the sack. But other than that, man, it was very similar to what we saw against Tennessee. A lot of simple stunts up front. Really trying to get Dylan Gabriel to work laterally, to pick a side, not step up in the pocket. And it was fun to watch, man. The defensive line, the rotation that we had was good. You saw Caden McDonald in there with Tyleik Williams, which I'm a big fan of that. I'm a big fan of having those two big guys in there on the interior. Really plugs up the gap so the quarterback, it's hard for him to step up in the pocket, man. It's just, Mitchell Melton was out there. Caden Curry, Kenyatta Jackson. Kenyatta Jackson, I believe, had 27 snaps or something like that, according to PFF. The defensive line just played exactly how they needed to play. They really shut down the run game, obviously. They had negative 26 yards rushing or something along those lines. But they really did a good job of disrupting Dillon Gabriel. And when they had opportunities to hit him or make plays on him, they did, man. And so it was definitely exactly what we needed to see them do and what we didn't see them do in the first matchup.
Yeah, I mean, they ate. There's no other way to put it. I show Kenyatta with 22 snaps.
22, there we go.
Thing that jumped out to me, but I guess when you look at how many snaps Ty and Tyleik played, Caden McDonald only played 9 snaps.
I know.
Excuse me. Which, if you've seen the viral video, Mama McDonald said you need to be playing more. And she's probably not wrong. I mean, Edric Houston did get 14, but again, Edric Houston is generational, I think, when it's all said and done. I really do. But yes, the rotation, Kenyatta played so good.
Yeah.
You saw Hero Canoe get some snaps. The linebacker snaps were interesting because of what we had to run against them.
Yeah.
Cody and Sonny, 71. Arvell Reese played 2 snaps.
Yeah. But this wasn't a game, I think Texas, you may see Arvell play a little bit more. But in my opinion, this wasn't necessarily a game, especially when we jumped up 14-0, that you were going to see Arvell. Arvell is a thumper. He is a tackle to tackle. Now, he's a freak athlete and he can do everything, but his strength is in the run game. And so once you jump up, 17-0, 24-0, now your game plan is completely changed. And so you've got to put your best pass defenders out there, and that's what they did. And so there's a lot of things that they did defensively. Offensively, man, it was just another aggressive performance. I don't think this was Will Howard's best game, but I think it was he made the right decisions. And that was one of the things I was very happy with. The throw to Emeka was a freaking dot. And I think Chip Kelly did a really good job of scheming up a lot of simple, easy reads for Will to get the ball out quick to our guys. But, he played efficient. The running game was solid. The offensive line had another good night. And so, man, it was just I don't want to say it was a complete game because I still don't think this offense and defense and special teams is all clicking on all cylinders. I think there's still some things that we need to get tweaked. When we do before the battle, I'll dive into that a little bit. I think there's some things with our offensive line that Texas is going to do against us that could cause some issues. But man, this was pretty close to perfect. But I still think there's a lot more that this offense and defense can give. Yeah,
you saw Tegra get tripped up in the second half.
Yeah.
And Coach Fry lit him up.
It was bad. Pick up.
But I mean, kudos to those coaches for still coaching in that situation.
Yeah.
I agree. I think there were some things that could have been a little more clean. But the offensive line, for as bad as they have obviously been ridiculed, the Twin Towers, as Big Dave called them, of Jordan Burch and Mateo, did nothing. There was one play in pass protection where Derek Harmon, made Luke look pretty rough, but that's a guy that's going to be a first-round NFL draft pick against a sophomore who's been playing O-line for 3 years.
Yeah.
And I think that, you saw them pass to set up the run like you and Jake said would be there. I just feel like from start to finish, it was good, but it wasn't great.
Yeah, I think the offensive line did what they had to do. I think in the run game, they were really good. I think, I was reading a tweet that J Book shared, and I watched the video that was with it, and it talked about the amount of counter that Ohio State is running. This is not something that Chip Kelly is used to doing. And it said in this video, I think it was through PFF. Chip Kelly is an inside zone guy, but I think he's realized that our offensive line may not be built to be a zone scheme team. We'll still have some, hints of it, but I think this is a more of a gap scheme team. And I think they are fully diving into that. This PFF video pointed out that Carlos Loughlin comes from that Mike Norvell coaching tree. And if you go back and you look at the amount of times that, Mike Norvell has run counter at Ohio or Florida State and Memphis and all the places that he's been, you couple that with, him having Danny Lanning and Kenny Dillingham on his staff, which are two programs, Oregon and Arizona State, that run the crap out of counter, you're starting to see the Buckeyes really adopt that mindset. And I think in the run game, I think the offensive line is doing a very solid job. It's not always perfect, but they're getting to where they need to be. And when you have running backs like Trey and Quinshon, that's all you really need to do. Let me get to where I need to be and get my body in the right position. It doesn't have to be a kill shot. It could be, a box out. It could be something as simple as that, just making sure that I'm in the correct position and letting the running backs do the work. I mean, they both had over 80 yards rushing. Obviously, Trey had that huge run. Even without that, though, Trey was averaging over 4 yards a carry. And so I think the offensive line is doing what they have to do. I think there are some weaknesses that we show. That play you were talking about with Luke, it was like a knot or a loop in between. And so they attach to their guys. Well, Luke is trying to patch over. And it's just it's hard to do when you're going up against a really good offense or defensive lineman. And so those are some things that obviously they will get worked out as they break down the film and all that throughout the week. But offensive line is doing what they need to do. They're keeping Will safe. They're keeping him for the most part clean, and they are doing a solid job in the run game. And that's all we can ask from this group. And I think these next 2 weeks, hopefully these next 2 weeks, we have an opportunity to really continue that trend with the offensive line. But Texas isn't going to be a cakewalk, though. Texas is freaking good on defense, man.
They are. Trey only carried the ball 8 times.
Yeah.
Quinshon 17. We had 181 net yards rushing. Counting 5 from Jeremiah and Will lost 3. Will went 17 to 26 through the air, 319 and 3 touchdowns. Obviously, we've said it till we're blue in the face. Feed 4, and they made no bones about it that they were going to feed 4. 10 targets, 7 grabs, 187 yards. He just absolutely dominated. But the play to Emeka, the touchdown to Emeka. And, I think I've talked about this before, just shows you how good Emeka Egbuka is. Yeah. Because, again, he did not show that corner or safety or whoever was on him that the ball was coming. He did not move his hands. He never even went up. He just kind of went out. Just a dime. And then the JJ touchdown number 2, I watched, I think it was a Skycast view of it. He bobbed that defender out of his cleats to get open. It wasn't that Oregon just said, "Hey, we forgot about the best receiver in the country." Jeremiah Smith earned that.
Oh yeah, he definitely. Listen, one of the things that you are going to run into as a defensive coordinator, if you like to play a lot of quarters coverage, right, which means you're going to have 2 safeties, but those safeties are really going to be reading the route of number 2. If number 2 goes vert, he takes all of them. Right. Well, when you have Jeremiah Smith in the slot and you're one-on-one and he's got a 2-way go, like that is an extremely difficult place to be. I played that position in college. It is not fun. It is not fun. You hope you guess right. But Brian Hartline's receivers do such a good job of getting into the blind spots of the defensive backs. And it makes things very difficult. And so you can see, Jeremiah had to really wait on that ball a little bit because I think Will was expecting it, to take a little bit more time to set up. But Jeremiah, JJ just did such a good job of getting into that safety's blind spot that when he broke back to the corner of the end zone, there was no speed turn or anything that DB could do. And so that was just a great play design to find a way to get a one-on-one matchup for your best offensive player. And I think Chip Kelly's done a really good job of doing that. And it's going to be interesting to see, how Texas, because Texas defensive backs are really good. They're bigger. So it'll be interesting to see how they try to take away, JJ. But you saw with Emeka, you could try to take JJ away, but Emeka is going to go out there and have 4 catches, 60 however many yards, and a touchdown like he did in the first half, right? And so he has the capability of taking over the game as well. If you take him away, obviously we have Carnell, which we don't even talk about. He's had the most quiet, 600 or 700 yards receiving in a season that I've ever seen. And so, we just have to understand teams are going to start trying to take JJ away even more so. So how are we going to get these other guys involved? And I think Chip Kelly's doing a great job of scheming up some really good things for those receivers.
Yeah, and obviously we'll dive into this more when we do before the battle, but I think Arizona State showed you some areas Texas can be exposed. Now, yes, Scatterboo is an animal. There's no other way around it. But as patchwork as the Ohio State offensive line has been, I'm going to guess that, top to bottom, they're still better than the Arizona State offensive line. And those guys showed you something there. And then obviously, I don't think Texas can score enough to hang with Ohio State. But that's a whole nother conversation.
Yeah.
Before we dive into the defense, which was by far the highlight of that game, props, Jaden Fielding.
Man.
2 field goals, one of which was like 46 or 48. I mean, confidence back in the room.
Yeah. And that's huge, man. That is huge. I remember watching the game with my parents, with my dad, and I'm like, listen, when we went up 14-0 on that next drive, we got to find a way to get points. We got to make this a 3-score game, right? Because if you make it a 3-score game, now they're in full chase mode.
Yep.
And that's not where they want to be. Right. So even if it's 3 points, it still makes it a 3-score game. We've got to find a way to get it. Right. And so once that drive stalled out a little bit and Jaden went out there, I said, man, if he makes this, let's talk about resiliency. And, he went out there. It was without a doubt was right down the middle. Being a kicker sucks, man.
Yeah, it does.
It's not an easy thing to do. That's why a lot of people try to go get, these soccer players, right?
Yep.
Who really, just know how to boom the ball. Well, that's all well and good until the game's on the line or until you need these 3 points, right? And so, for him to bounce back after having a couple, 3 or 4 weeks that he's had, leading up to these games, dude, that's awesome, man. It shows a lot of mental toughness, shows a lot of trust that, the coaching staff has in him too, to keep, putting him out there to kind of kick through it. And so, to see him go 2 for 2, man, that was big. And they came at opportune times and where we needed points. And so, shout out to Jaden Fielding, man. That was huge.
Yeah, absolutely. It's just, you're going to need a kicker at some point in these next, hopefully 2 games. So to see that confidence, now we will be inside. Well, they might have the roof open at Jerry World. We'll see.
Yeah.
And that's going to be interesting too, as you dive into that, because Texas has arguably one of the best kickers in college football, and we saw him look rough. Not only is he a good kicker, but he's got the best hair in college football. I think, that's probably the best hair I've seen in a football helmet since Bryson Lawrence at River Valley.
It's a good head of hair, man. It's good.
So I guess, we'll swap over to the defense. Those boys came to play.
They did.
Like we said the first time we played Oregon, Dylan Gabriel, now that it's blatantly obvious that Dylan likes the grass. He's a big grass guy. In the first game, he could have, mowed his grass, rolled his grass, whatever he wanted to do. And this game, no. I hit on it in the open. Negative 23 yards for the Ducks rushing.
Yeah.
And now some of that came with the game plan, because once they were in full-fledged catch-up mode, you're not going to run the ball nearly as much. You get into like a second and short, you're going to try it, third and short, whatever. Because they only ran the ball, I guess they ran it 28 times. So 3 less than the Buckeyes.
Yeah.
Dillon Gabriel, 29 of 41 for 299. But obviously the big number there, Dillon Gabriel was sacked 8 times.
Yeah. Yeah. It was fun. It was fun to see. It was great. It was great to see the defensive line really execute and do what they've been asked to do, right? If you watch, like you said, we did not blitz a ton. There was not a lot of blitzes that were happening. We were counting on that front four to get home. And when you have the ability to get your front four home and not bring pressure, that allows you to be so creative with the likes of Caleb Downs. Caleb Downs, in my opinion, had one of his better games as a Buckeye, even though he dropped 3 interceptions. Yeah. Right. Legitimately, 2 of them hit him right in his chest. And I know those are 2 that he's upset with himself about. But it allows you to get creative with him and really mess with the quarterback's eyes when it comes to coverages. If you look, like we had 7 guys in coverage almost the entire night. Right. And we ran a lot of different coverages. We ran a lot of cover 2. We ran a lot of Tampa 2. We ran some cover 3. We rolled to cover 3 where Latham Ransom had that huge hit on the running back. That was us rolling to cover 3, and Ransom just read run right now. And after he rolled down to the box and was shot out of a cannon, the Buckeyes did a really good job, and Coach Knowles did a really good job of scheming up ways to get those one-on-one matchups up front. And that was huge. JT, shout out to you for getting, double-digit sacks for the first time since Chase Young. Like, I know there's been a lot of criticism of you and the lack of play or big plays that you've made. I think you're starting to shut some people up. You're doing your great job. Jack is just being Jack, playing out of his mind, man. And so that was good. My favorite part of the night, though, was the way that we were spying Dillon Gabriel after the first, maybe half of the first quarter. They started switching up how they were spying Dillon Gabriel with Cody Simon. And so if you notice, they were trying to pretty much bait him to escape the pocket in a certain direction. And if he escaped in that certain direction, that meant Cody Simon was going to go pull him up and basically do a delay blitz, and it's one-on-one with him. He's going to make Dillon Gabriel have to pay for it. Dillon Gabriel's going to make a miss. Dillon Gabriel was not able to make this. And so, it was just an all-around really good performance from the defense, executing exactly what they needed to do. Also, you notice not many big plays, right? Obviously, they scored 21 points, but we were in complete control of that game the entire time. But the one really big shot they tried to take down the field, that's why you don't look back, guys. I know you guys get upset with us and when the DB doesn't look back, but I'm telling you, IGB, the ball that hit him on his head, that was textbook. That is exactly when you're one-on-one, we're not looking back for the ball until that guy makes a play for it with his hands. And then I'm playing through his hands before that. And at worst, the ball hits you in the back of the head. That's what we tell the DBs all the time. If it hits you in the back of the head, they don't catch it. Hey, it's pass breakup. Great job. It was great coverage, man. And Denzel Burke, shout out to Denzel Burke. He didn't get picked on not one time. He had a huge hit on a screen. He just played very, very well. And so all around defense was really solid. I was very pleased top to bottom with how we played.
Yeah. And that whole look back thing, when you and I first really started talking football, that was one of the first things that I would always, whine about to you. And you're like, oh, now hold on a minute. Here's the why. And, so my stance on that has changed a lot. Just like with the whole watching what Ohio State's receivers do with their hands.
Yeah, man.
Now, yes, in the NFL, if you don't play the ball, you're going to get flagged.
Yeah.
That's just the nature of that beast. But in college football, that's not a thing. And you see it, Alabama never looked at the ball.
Yeah.
During the Saban era. And those guys, that was a lot of really good DBs across the board, not
Absolutely.
just corners. So yeah, that IGB, Denzel, those guys played really, really well. They heard the smoke. I liked the Cody thing. Obviously that led to two sacks. And Cody was bringing the hits. I mean, he was hitting hard. Lathan Ransom, hit hard. I can't remember. Oh, Caden Curry had a sack. That's right.
Yeah, he did. Yep. That was all pure. That was pure effort. That's all that was.
Yeah, absolutely. That reminded me, as much as I hate to say it, like, because he's kind of built like Rudy, So, but if we get to that point, you think I talk trash about Miami, who, by the way, they got a visit from the Branch brothers, but they're going to Georgia. But I can't even think of anything to say about Miami except for the fact that they're going to be in really bad shape unless Rashada goes back there, because they're going to strike on. There's not a good quarterback in the portal left, basically.
Yeah.
Our in-house Miami fan, we always talk about him. I think when it was like 20-21 nothing, I'm about to turn this off. This is ridiculous. So shout out to our closet, but he's actually a closet Buckeye fan.
Oh, absolutely.
He's going to be livid that I threw that out there. And that's what I told him. I said, you can't want to turn this off. You're a closet Buckeye fan. You're supposed to enjoy this.
Yeah.
So we'll see what happens there, this week. And, we're not 100% sure what this week will bring you as far as before the battles go. We did tell Jake we're 2-0. So sounds like Jake will be back this week.
Yeah.
I'll be excited to see what you guys find, because Texas is an entirely different animal offensively than these last two teams we've played.
Yeah, man. Listen, I am the guy who was saying all year long that I think Texas was the best team in the country. I think Texas is the real deal. I think, Quinn Ewers can make some mistakes, and I think their defense is really going to try to lure him into those mistakes. But once he gets rolling, once he's got arm talent out the wazoo, man. He's a talented individual. They've got speed out on the edges. They've got running backs that run hard. Their defense is aggressive. Their secondary is bigger than we've seen in the last few weeks. This is a good football team. And I know that we are, we're really hot right now, which is great. And I loved hearing today and yesterday, during the press conferences, the guys talking about how they got a chip on their shoulder still. Will Howard's talking about how he never beat Texas while he was at Kansas State. You know what I mean? These guys are trying to find ways to make sure that they get one more week together. And that is something that I love hearing. This team is very, very hungry. Don't read the press clippings. You ain't done anything. You're still the same team that got beat 13-10 by the terrible Michigan team, right? But I can tell you that this Texas team is the real deal. They are good. Arizona State was a good football team. They found a way to win. This is a good team. Don't overlook them. Don't think we're just going to breeze to the national championship. It's not going to be the case, man. This is going to be a good football game. And I think we, as a program, can do a lot of different things to really cause them some issues. Like you said, I think Arizona State really exposed some things. I think Quinn Ewers has thrown a lot of interceptions, done some crazy things where, I don't know where he's throwing the ball. And so there are opportunities there for us to make a lot of plays and do a lot of good things. But this is going to be a good game, man. I'm excited for this one. I love this Final Four, by the way.
Yeah.
Just getting like blue bloods back at it, man. To see Texas and Ohio State's helmets, to see, Notre Dame and Penn State. Like, I absolutely love this Final Four, man. Any team, in my opinion, any team can win this. I really do think that. I think Ohio State is playing the best right now, but that does not mean Texas can't go out and beat them. I think Notre Dame is an extremely tough out. They're going to play hard and physical. Riley Leonard's going to do a great job of whatever it takes to win. And, and I think Penn State's playing good football right now. So it's a good Final Four, man. I'm excited for it.
Yeah. So yeah, I guess let's pivot there. All four teams with the bye lost.
Yeah.
Now granted, that's a little deeper dive. So obviously, let's go Penn State, Boise. Boise should not have had a bye if we're being honest. Ashton Genty had an okay game, but Penn State just bullied them. And like we said, Penn State had the easiest path to where we're at. Now they got to play big boy football against Notre Dame, who, I think we both picked to beat Georgia.
Yeah.
Now granted, excuse me, Georgia was without their starting quarterback. Georgia has no wide receivers.
None, man.
Georgia's receivers couldn't catch COVID.
Yeah. I was, and so I text Thaddeus Carter, diehard Georgia fan, and I guess because I hadn't really I've watched Georgia games, but I wasn't watching them like closely, right, and so I guess I just didn't realize the lack of explosiveness they have out on the edges. Their tight ends are their best receivers, and their tight ends are really good. I think it's like one guy's last name is Delp. I think he's
not Brock.
No, he's not. And so like I was really shocked by their lack of explosive plays. But again, Notre Dame's a good team. They play good defense. They know how to win. They muck everything up. They make things ugly, and that's just who they are, right? And Marcus Freeman he's a great coach. He's a great culture builder. People, the Notre Dame nation has bought into that. The program has bought into it. He's got Riley Leonard, who is that, right? He's just a junkyard dog, a quarterback. So they'll find ways to win games. And I think Penn State's a very good team. I think that Penn State's defense is playing really good right now. I think, Drew Aller, in my opinion, has the best pro prospects out of any quarterback in the nation. Maybe he'll end up in Cleveland next year.
That'd be a hell of a story.
Yeah. But, I just feel like this is a good Final Four, really good matchups for everybody. So it's good, man. I'm glad it worked out the way that it did. But the first four teams, or the four teams that are in it not getting buys, I forget, I was reading through social media. Somebody said, well, it's easy to come out flat when you've had 2 weeks off. It's like, you still have to prepare though. Like that's the thing. Like you still have to prepare. You still have to come out and execute. And if you're the number one team in the country, that's what you should do. All right. You should do that. Right. And so it's just like, Ohio State should have done things against Michigan that they didn't do. Like that's on them. Like it's not because they had a layoff or anything like that. Like it's on, them for not going out and executing. And so, I don't know if the layoff has anything to do with it, but man, I'm just really shocked that we're not seeing a Georgia or anybody in this Final Four, man. It's crazy.
Yeah. And that was something that, Ohio State sat basically 3 weeks before they played Tennessee.
Yeah.
So you can't give me that. Now, I will say I saw something today because, we've made no mistakes about it, that we're big culture guys, and the players are aware of what goes on. And I don't think it happens, but it sounds like Dan Lanning is going to interview for the Bears job.
Really?
So who knows? Did the players? Now, granted, you still have to go play for your guys. I mean, if you haven't watched Varsity Blues as a college football player, you got to go play for your guys. But yeah, sounds like he's on their short list. I think it's a give me a raise. Because I don't know how well Lanning does in the NFL, if we're being honest.
Yeah, I don't know.
I mean, the guy can coach ball. There's no doubt about that. And I will say that, he made a comment after the game that unless you hear the full context of it, it became very clickbait very quick. Because I was obviously, I saw just the gist of it and I'm like, whoa. He goes, sometimes it's not your day, just like for them, it wasn't against Michigan. But he was asked about, how do you look that off, in a game when you've been pretty much dominant all year?
Yeah.
So, yeah, I don't know what happened there. I really don't. They did not look like themselves at all. But now, granted, I think Ohio State came out and put the pedal to the metal.
Yeah, and I think so too, man. And that's just a weird thing. Some nights teams are clicking on all cylinders, right? The Buckeyes played, got off to such a good start that it takes you out of what you want to do.
Mm-hmm.
And that's a tough part. You don't game plan for being down 17-0, right? You don't game plan for being down 24-0, right? You look at your call sheet and you say, you know what? We're going to get back to doing what we do. We're going to get back to being who we are, right? But that's also not a national quarterfinal game. Like this was, you know what I mean? Like, and so this is a situation where like you don't have another week. Like you're playing to win. And so how do you get back in the game? Well, I get back in the game by trying to, get the ball out to our playmakers, push the ball downfield a little bit. Well, if that doesn't hit, well, now we're putting ourselves in even bigger of a hole. And so, like, those are things that it just happens. That there's no explanation for it. There's also times where they just got your number. Ohio State prepared extremely well for this game. Bottom line, I mean, I can't even, the game plans, I won't say they're perfect. I think obviously every week there's things that coaches need to work on, but they were damn near perfect and they executed at a high level. And when you have that much talent, sometimes you just get overwhelmed. It happens, right? Look at Ohio State against Michigan. We felt like we could run the ball on the interior. Well, we got overwhelmed by two of the best D tackles in the country. Like, that sometimes they just have more than what you can handle. And that's just the way that it is, but I think in these next 2 weeks, obviously with the Texas game and, whoever makes it to the national championship, I just think you're going to see hungry teams that are going to be gritty, that are going to do whatever it takes to walk off that field with a win. That's why I think, these next two games, Penn State, Notre Dame, and Ohio State, Texas are going to be really good. I just think they're going to be really good matchups, man.
I think Penn State and Notre Dame may be surprisingly low scoring.
Yeah.
And Notre Dame's getting kind of beat up too. That's the other thing. They are missing some dudes. But they made it work against Georgia. So we'll see. And we'll dive into that. We'll throw a little bit of that at the end of the Before the Battle episode, or episodes plural, when we get there. I guess before we kind of dive into, we got a little bit of portal rumblings, happenings. Let's do some Buckeye Leaves and Silver Bullets.
Yeah, let's do that.
So we'll start with Buckeye Leaves. I'm going to go Jaden Fielding.
There we go.
My man earned his helmet back. And then I'm going to give kind of the duo of Trey and Quinshawn.
Yep.
Those two dudes, how creepy is it that their stats are basically identical?
Yeah.
Number of carries, yards. In that game, Trey carried the ball, like I said, 8 times. Quinshawn had like 17 carries.
Yeah.
But they both did their job.
Yeah.
I think Texas could be a Quinshawn game.
Yeah.
Based on what we saw with Scattaboo. I could be way off, and Chip Kelly could be in his bag, and Trey could bust one for 70 yards to start the game. And then Emeka, and JJ obviously got all the shine, in that game. But that touchdown catch that Emeka had was just – and then he had that one catch on the sideline where he almost, like, did a 360 and then spun around. So those are my 3. And then I'm going to give an honorary Buckeye Leave. I guess we could call this Duck Wings, to Tez Johnson.
Yeah, man. That was pretty
Class act, man. If you haven't seen the video, he waited on Will Howard to finish his interview. He didn't interrupt the interview. He stood back, out of view to tell Will Howard, job well done, and go win it.
Yeah. Yeah, man. Tez Johnson's story is pretty cool.
Yeah.
He was Bo Nix, quarterback for the Denver Broncos. His family kind of took Tez Johnson in. Tez Johnson's mom is in his life and things like that. But this was a situation where for 6 years, mom and family thought it may be best if Tez just stayed with the Nix family. And that's what he did. And, Tez went on to Troy, And then he ended up at Oregon somehow after that because of Bo Nix. And now Tez Johnson's going to be playing on Sundays. He's an extremely talented player, but as a class act, man, stand-up guy. So shout out to Tez, man. I thought that was pretty cool, man. To get beat like that and then to still find a way to, show humility and show the gratitude towards somebody you went to battle against. Yeah. I think that's pretty cool. But for me, my Buckeye leaves, man. I'm gonna obviously, the running backs like you mentioned, JJ, Emeka, all those guys, Will Howard, but I'm gonna give 2 Buckeye leaves, 2 guys on offense. These are only offensive players that are getting one for me: Josh Fryer and Donovan Jackson. I think Donovan Jackson. I might go on a tangent here, but this is where I get fired up about the culture. Right? Culture. Ryan Day soft, all this stuff. Like, when you have guys like Donovan Jackson, the culture's fine. The culture is well intact. The brotherhood is well intact. This is a guy who didn't even bat an eye about moving to play tackle, had not played tackle at Ohio State at all. He could have went to the draft last year, but he didn't. And he's come back and he's doing all these things to find success for his team, for his brothers, for his seniors that he came in with. Like, he's the epitome, in my opinion, of a Buckeye. And then for Josh Fryer, all the ridicule. I know he was first team All Big Ten last year. I think that was just, I don't even know. I didn't think he was a first team Big Ten player last year. But to see him this year, he's just playing good football. And, it's not always perfect. Sometimes it's very ugly. But he just finds ways to get it done. And the reason why I picked those guys is not only because I think they're great Buckeyes, but like having a player that's there that I coached and Luke, like having 2 guys to look up to. Like, this is how I could be or need to be if I'm going to, be a leader in this room. Like, I just think they're setting such good examples for the rest of the guys in that room. So those 2 guys get my Buckeye leaves, man. And then, obviously Donovan Jackson's dad getting on Twitter.
That's what I was going to say.
Going at Big Dave, man. That was awesome, man. So yeah, shout out to those 2, man. I think they're playing good football and just giving everything they got to the program.
I actually have the tweet pulled up to bring that up. Yeah, Donovan Jackson's dad bodied the college football version of LeVar Ball. Dave actually deleted the tweet talking about the Ohio State offensive line and how Mateo was going to eat. And Donovan Jackson's dad said, "Hey, Big Dave, saw that you enjoyed talking about him to my son this week. You can now take his name out of your mouth and enjoy the offseason."
Yeah.
Body bag zipped. There's no other way to put that.
Yeah.
Buckeye leaves. I did some combos. I had to. I think you've got to go. If you're going to give Jack one, you've got to give JTT one. But, man, the way Jack Sawyer is playing the football is next level.
Yeah.
That is J.J. Watt. And J.J. Watt took notice, of Jack. And then Cody Simon. And then I would be remiss if we didn't give one to Denzel Burke and IGB both.
Yeah.
Those dudes, after the Oregon game, the bulk of the Ohio State fan base was ready to bench them both.
Yep.
Put Jermaine Matthews and somebody with a pulse in there. Now, Jermaine Matthews did play basically the exact same number of snaps as IGB, which I thought, or as Denzel, I'm sorry.
As Denzel, yeah.
That I thought was interesting because Denzel didn't play bad.
Yeah.
But I think there's a little bit of roster management to that too.
For sure.
Because I think Jermaine Matthews flirted with the portal last year, and I think, obviously it's a given he's going to start next year. There's no doubt about it.
No doubt.
But, those guys basically allowed nothing.
Yeah.
And that's crazy to say when they threw for 299 yards.
Yeah.
But it was a lot of, obviously, like, I don't watch the all 22, but I feel like we played a lot of zone when they were completing passes.
Oh yeah, there was only a handful of man coverage reps. So yeah, there was a lot of zone, man. But I think those are some really good silver bullet picks, and I got to give some love to my guy Lathan Ransom. This dude is just playing at such a high level. And I think back to all of the things that he has had to overcome, the injuries, different things like that. Like, he is playing such good football right now. And I just want to see it continue. And then I want to give, it's not a silver bullet, but, I want to give some love to, and I know everybody said, well, you're just a Coach Day fan, but I want to give some love to Coach Day, man. Like, what he's done. And I'm not even, listen, we may not win this week, and we could lose, and people will be upset with him and all that stuff. It doesn't take away from what he's done from the Michigan game until now. That is not an easy place to be. Your family's not going to, out in public because the whole world hates you. The whole state of Ohio hates you. They all want you fired. Your kids are afraid to go to school because kids are saying things to them. Well, my mom and dad said your dad sucks as a coach, and blah, 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 right? Those are real. Those are real things, man.
It's real.
Those are real things, man. And so, like, for him to deal with that and then to find a way, because after the Michigan game, it could have very easily just blown up and been Missouri all over again.
Yep.
Right. And we could have gone out against Tennessee and got boat raced, and then he would have really been on the hot seat. But he found a way to get this thing turned around. And I don't know what it was, but the messaging has been very clear throughout his press conferences and from the players. Even, Luke was talking yesterday and during the press conference, and a few others. They just want to play another week together. Like, that's it. They just want to find a way to play one more week together. For him to be able to get guys to buy into that brotherhood is just phenomenal. And so I want to give some love to Coach Day. I think he's done a really good job of making sure that these guys remain focused and locked in on the task at hand. And I do think the Michigan game really, left an extremely bad taste in their mouth because they have legacies that they're playing for. And so I think if they can right all those wrongs in their mind, that then they're going to go out and they're going to do whatever it takes to go win these next 2 games. And so, shout out to Coach Day, man, for figuring it out. I don't know exactly what you did, what you said, but it's been good, man. So keep it up, man. So shout out to Coach Day.
Yeah. Speaking of Coach Day and his voice, our boy BG sent me this morning. I believe this was at halftime. So you're up 38-8. And this is how you're talking to your team. So that was before the game. But yeah, the rosy-cheeked assassin's back. I mean,
yeah,
he is out for blood.
Yeah. When you saw, even there were reporters saying that, when those guys were going in at halftime, they weren't smiling. They weren't, high-fiving. They were locked in. And to me, that's a testament to what Coach Day and the coaching staff is doing right now. And it's a testament to the leaders on this team. They know what's at stake. They're not guaranteed next week, right? They're not guaranteed that. And so to get the opportunity to play one more week together and to just stay locked in on that is just a phenomenal thing, man. And so, for all the people that say that the culture is messed up and the brotherhood's messed up and blah, 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 kick rocks, man. You have literally no freaking clue what you're talking about. We need to beat Michigan, yes. But to sit there and say that, these guys aren't wanting, they're not for the brotherhood. They're not, doing the mat drills the way Urban used to do them. Like, dude, shut up with all that stuff, man. You got a group of guys out here that are willing to do whatever it takes to get one more week together.
Yep.
You cannot ask for anything more than that as a Buckeye fan. So hopefully, we get it taken care of this Friday. We get a chance to play for that natty. And then once we get there, man, if it happens, let the chips fall where they may. Just let them drop. Go have fun, man. So, 2 more games, man. You got 2
That's
more. You get the ultimate goal, man.
I got to give another Buckeye Leaf to a guy who can't even play in a game yet. Devin Sanchez. Obviously we talk a lot of recruiting, and we've basically said Devin Sanchez and his family are Captain Buckeye. Devin Sanchez proved on Wednesday night on his Instagram story that he is Captain Buckeye. He literally tagged Naeem Alford, Dorian Brew, Richard McNutt, and DeCorian Moore, talking of, I forget what the exact verbiage was, about it being bad for business or something.
Yeah.
And then I'm pretty sure it was also him who on IG said, shouldn't go to Oregon for no shoe deal.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
I love it, dude. You are seeing this program start to develop a swagger. And you're developing a swagger with good kids. It's not like you've got dudes out here that are thugs acting like that. I mean, you have good kids. Devin Sanchez may start week 1 next year as a freshman.
Yeah, he's pretty good, man.
This guy's out here talking his mess already.
Yeah.
Because I think you're going to see, especially if Dan Lanning really does entertain this Bears thing, you may see the lack of culture at Oregon. You know, you're trying to buy a championship. And it's going to be interesting to see what happens. You already saw their 5-star QB decommit from this recruiting class.
Yeah.
And I think that is probably Oregon, who's being rumored to be throwing the money at Quinn Ewers to stay.
Yeah.
In the college game, because Dante Moore ain't it.
He needs another year or so to develop, I think.
And then he might be it, but at this point, I don't know. Real quick, some transfer portal happenings. I think this will get us current from what we talked about last time, because all 3 of these just happened. Patrick Gerd is going to use his 6th year, tight end. Great, like H-back, fullback kind of guy.
Oh, yeah.
I'll be interested to see who we use in that spot now, because I don't know if there's anybody on the roster that makes sense. Maybe a Bennett Christian. Mitchell Melton is going to use his last year. That one kind of hurts because I think he could have had a role next year. And then George Fitzpatrick. Those guys are all leaving. Jaden Bonsu commits to Pitt. Zen Mahalski is going to go play for his coach that he had to Google at IU. I find that very interesting. You know, there might be something there still. And then obviously with the addition we talked about at the beginning.
Yeah, I think, you know, obviously I'm sure, you know, Mitchell Melton and Patrick Gerd and even George, I think they're going to stick around for these next 2 games. I would hope, I would imagine that they are, you know, knowing them in the type of guys that they are, I'm 90% sure that's what they're going to be doing, but I could be wrong. But yeah, they got to make business decisions, man. You know, they want an opportunity to play. You know, Patrick Gerd was originally a walk-on. He busted his tail to get where he's at now within the program. And he knows like this is probably where he maxes out at Ohio State. Yeah. So if he could get an opportunity to go to maybe a lower level school and get more run as a tight end or true H-back and get his best opportunity to go play at the next level, like that is, I support that. Mitchell Melton does hurt a little bit, but at the same time, he's given 5 years to this school. Exactly. I mean, there's not much else he could do. I believe he's already graduated. And so he's given 5 years to the school, and, you know, shout out to him for sticking it out. I know he's dealt with some injuries. I bet he could get 2 years of eligibility, honestly, because of all the injuries he's dealt with. I'm sure there is a way that he could appeal one of those years, but, you know, it hurts, you know, because I think he could have been a player for us next year. But, you know, I think the Bucs will be okay, and, you know, I think and hope that they go find the most success they can find, man, because those are guys that are true Buckeyes, man, true Buckeyes, and have done it the right way.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm just making sure we didn't miss anything since we came on here real quick. Gerd and Melton are staying through the playoffs.
Good.
So that will help. And yeah, I mean, no other entries from us or anybody. There's one I would really like to speak into existence just because we did it with Caleb, but I'm not ready to go there yet because, you know, Georgia's still got a couple more days before their guys can declare. But good Lord. So, yeah, I think that kind of wraps everything up with a nice little bow on it this week. You know, and we will keep you guys posted on our plans for this week. I think we would probably like to have something up by Thursday so we could watch the game on Thursday night, but obviously we'll see.
Yeah.
we did a little pot or a little score prediction contest, and just kind of looking through, I'm gonna have to give the win to Tyler Emmerich, who picked 42-24.
Oh,
So yeah, I will be throwing him together a little care package, I guess you could say, of some On It OSU licensed cards, including a JJ. I think Tyler's got a brother who is into cards.
okay.
So yeah, I'm gonna put him together a little care package. I'll do that right here while we're doing that. Easy enough. You can get him some other ones, but those are cool. Again, this is like one of the first true NIL things that came out. They work with the university. Pretty cool little product, not overly expensive. You can get some bangers. There's JJ Smith autographs out of that product selling for like $900. Just a hair of money.
Yeah.
So,
it's crazy.
but yeah, shout out Tyler for that. We will we'll run something for Texas as well. I'll post that up tomorrow after the episode is live. Shout out to everybody for the shares on that. The more likes, shares, comments, that triggers the algorithm. So
yeah.
But yeah, shout out to Chris at the barn, Jake at Cornerstone. Those guys are killing it. That's all I got for the week.
That's it, man. That's all I got, man.
All right. Well, if you have school tomorrow, which I think all the Marionaires will, because it's going to be, a real blizzard up here. But sounds like Dublin and Lewis Center is getting interesting, though. I just saw a thing. So Slate might get an extra day of break.
We'll see.
All right. We will see you guys at some point this week for Before the Battle.